And I think you're all going to be fascinated with what she has to show you today. So please join me in bringing this lady to the stage.
Thank you. Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Tanya. Yes! Who here had an amazing time the past few days? I think this is the most fun security conference I've ever been to. And I'm not just saying that. I really, really love it here. I love Halifax. This is my 4th time here. And every time I come, it's just like amazingly wonderful human beings that are so friendly, tons and tons of fun. And then I try to climb up that blue tongue and then fall off of it. And then kids look at me like, I can do it. I know it's supposed to be the big blue wave, but anyway, it looks like a tongue. Okay, so today my talk is called Security Learns to Sprint, and it's about DevSecOps. So I have some questions, so I know everyone that's here. So who codes as part of their job? Okay. Who does testing as part of their job? Okay. Who patches things or configures things as part of their job? Who here manages projects? Okay, who here does security? All the hands, look at this. All the hands, security is everybody's job. So that's gonna be kind of like the thesis of today's talk. Security kind of weaves into everything. And yeah, so to get more specific today, I wanna talk about what DevOps is, because I have to say that I used to not really know what it was. I was like, isn't that when you hire a developer and then you let go your ops person and you just make them do both jobs, but you just pay them one salary? I thought that's what it was at first. So I'm gonna kind of explain what it is really quickly, and then I'm gonna talk about how we can learn how to sprint and how we as security people can change the way we do our jobs so that we fit into DevOps right in the middle to make DevSecOps. So that's what this talk is about today. Okay, that's this. So who here has seen this famous slide by Pete Sheslack? Yes, that is, okay, so a lot of people I know that work in security, that is the picture they get when someone's like, oh, DevOps, they're like, no, this is what I see. I see security teaching the rainbow pooping unicorns. I see them giving them tools, training them, helping them, enabling dev and ops to get their jobs done securely. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So get ready for happy rainbows and unicorns. Okay, so this is me. This is me in Montebello every summer at Asia Rock Fest. And I'm Tanya Janca, but on the internet, I'm She Hacks Purple. Who here was here for Laurent's talk just like a couple seconds ago? And he talked about purple teams. That's me. His talk was awesome. If you didn't see it, you should watch it later. So I work at a startup. You might have heard of us. It's pronounced Microsoft. We make, Windows, like a couple of things. And I have the weirdest job title ever. I'm a cloud advocate. I advocate for the cloud, but really so I made a whole slide about it because my job description is so weird, but I actually advocate for all of you, the community and the industry, inwards. So I get feedback and tell them like, this is not working for us. Or like, that is priced at a point where no one can buy it, but we'd really like to have it. And other things like that to try to make everything work, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm totally obsessed with OWASP. Every time you ever see me speak, at some point I will bring it up. I also have started like this women's group, and sorry gents, I love you, but this is a kind of a thing for women where basically I just wanted to make cool security friends that were women, because all my friends were men, and I was like, it'd be cool if I knew chicks. So I made this, and then that was like, I made it right after this last year, and now we have 15 chapters around the world. We're just opening our second one in Africa. It's amazing. So it turns out lots of women want friends, not just me. So you can check it out. And then I've been coding a long time, and I do this because I think it's too hard to do security. I think the way that we're doing things is too hard. So I'm trying to make things easier. And that's why also, I love talking, but mostly because I'm concerned about how hard we're making things at the moment, and I feel like we can improve and do better and like win at IT security. Okay, so that was like lots and lots of Tanya, and instead let's look at DevOps. Okay, so the next minute or two are going to be review, and I'm sure that lots of you know some of it, and Laurent knows all of it, but for everyone else that might have a gap, I'm just going to do like this 1 or 2 minutes of review. Then we're going to look at DevOps and my interesting slants on it, and then the rest is just going to be a million ideas of things that you can do back at the office. And if you do waterfall, don't worry, you can steal as many of them as you want. Okay, so what is AppSec, or application security? So it's a field of IT security to do with software. So any and every activity that you do to make your software more secure, that's AppSec. So if you hire Laurent or someone else who's like a badass like him to come in and like shake up your apps, that's one way to do AppSec. But another way is there's like a vulnerability that came out in a framework that I was using and it was really bad, so I upgraded my framework. That's AppSec, right? I have like automatic scans run on my GitHub repo, and once a week it tells me like, you know, in the past week, like this little vulnerability was found and reported, so we suggest, you know, you put that into your list of your backlog stuff to upgrade, things like that. Like if you're just grepping through your source code because, you know, you found something in this other app, you're like, maybe it's in my other apps too, because the same team made all of our custom apps. Right? And you go look for it and fix it there. Like all of that is AppSec, every single thing. It doesn't need to be like a formal activity. And so, yeah, I said that. So what you might not be aware of is that AppSec causes a huge, huge percentage of breaches. So unfortunately, since I made this slide, I guess I updated it and didn't save it after the last time I gave this presentation, but so 2016, 2017, and 2018, poor security in software has been the #1 reason for breaches. This is the 2016 information. But we are the winner, again, of causing heartache, financial loss, identity theft. That sucks. The next one you'll see is point of sale. So that's people like skimming credit cards and stuff. But that's huge. That's so huge. And that's because software is not as secure as it could be. And that's become like the new thing. If you're a hacker, you're like, let's just go right to the software, especially if it's old. So part of the problem is that it's not really covered in computer science. Like if you were studying software engineering, computer science, you might get a security course, but it might be something like, you know, how to manage access control, and like what is RBAC, role-based access control, how do you do that, which is important. But that's like one small piece, right? Oh, my Fitbit's telling me I just got my steps for the day. Yes! It like shakes, I'm like, ooh. So if we're going to school and then we're not learning like all the core concepts of how to make secure software, then how are we expected to do it, right? Like when I went to college a while ago, you know, there was like a 1.9 at the beginning of the year rather than a 2.0 when I graduated. And what that means is that like I got nothing to do with security, and then they've just been letting me loose in industry for over 20 years. And there are so many people like me, but there's like new people that are young, that are just graduating, that still don't know all these things. Like imagine if an electrician came to your house and didn't know how to do things securely or safely, and then your house burned down. That's what we're doing with software all the time. This is disconcerting for me, and since all of us pay a lot of taxes because we're in Canada, I can say that. Like, I don't know, this is disconcerting. Okay, so here's my second last point. So see her, she's security. See how she's all by herself and sad looking? There's not, security's so outnumbered, like that's me in the data center by myself. So this is the estimates for our industry, that there's 100 developers to every 10 operations folk to every 1 security person. I don't know about you, but almost everywhere I've worked, I've been the only AppSec person, or I've been on a team named AppSec, but I'm still only the only AppSec person. Like they're doing compliance or other activities, but like I'm the only one that has ever coded a line of code. And what that means is that if you can imagine like a fire hose aimed at like a little cup, and then it's going like this, and then you leave it for a year, and then you come back, that was my inbox every morning. developers would like write me on LinkedIn and Twitter and be like, can you help me, Tanya? I have this problem. And I was like, ah. And so we can't work harder if these are our numbers, right? We have to work smarter. Okay, so this is my friend made this for me, one of my best friends. And see how it's like dinosaurs frolicking in a waterfall? So he made that for me when I feel passive aggressive. He's like, just look at this. So like, waterfall wasn't good. And I know that I have made more software development projects with it than without it. And that around like 70% of those projects fail or don't finish on time or are way over budget. And DevOps has like a much higher percentage, which I don't actually know because it's so new, we're still studying it. The book is coming out soon. But the point is that like security for the waterfall model was really messy. Who here does security in a waterfall model situation? Oh, I can't see your hands. Okay, so I'm gonna assume there's some hands. I think I forgot to tell you all that not only did I bring stickers, but I bought maple candies. So if you participate in question period or put your hands up, you get candy after. So just, to motivate you. Because I know our arms get really heavy like as the day goes on. Okay, so next. So what is DevSecOps? It is performing AppSec in a DevOps environment, right? So where do security people fit into DevOps? That's what DevSecOps is. And my friend Imran said that. Okay, so now I'm gonna explain what DevOps is. There's 3 main goals of DevOps. So big, giant, huge companies switch to DevOps because it's getting them the business things that they want. And it's my theory the business things that they wanted are the same things that us as a security team should want. So the main goals of DevOps are improve deployment frequency, right? So if we can release features really fast, then that means we can beat our competitors. But for security, this means you can fix the great big bug I found right away, right? I've worked at places where they have told me an emergency release would take 4 months. Not days, months. And I'm like, but the sky is falling. And DevOps means that if I find something truly earth-shattering, that it can be fixed in hours, even minutes, depending upon where you work, certainly at least days, right? Like, this is amazing compared to what I was used to. And then, what else do we want? We want lower failure rates. So the business is like, if I create a product that's always up, if people can always come to my site and buy their awesome shoes or whatever, then that means I'm gonna make more money than my competitors, right? Okay, how does this affect security? Resiliency. Wait, let me explain. Who knows this? Oh, no hands again, I guess. Oh, I see hands. Yeah, that's right, candy's coming. This is the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It is my job as a security person to protect those 3 things for the apps and the data that all of the people in my business create and support, right? So when we go back to this, if we look at resiliency, what does that mean? It's the A in CIA. It means things are always available. So this is one of the mandates of the IT security team. This is 1/3 of all of our concerns in the world. And so this is a great thing that DevOps is providing. So the 3rd thing is faster time to market. Does anyone dare guess at why this would be good for the security team? See, I should have had the candy on stage. Wait. First to market wins. Definitely, but also, if there is no business, there is no security team, right? If we get to market faster, that means business continues to exist, and that means we still have jobs. And if we are not enabling everyone in our business to get done whatever they need to do securely, then we're a failure as a team, right? I worked at a place once where I actually said to my colleague, you are the threat to availability here. You're my main risk to this project. I was a developer then. And the security team just like it just felt like they were getting in my way all the time. I'm like, you're the threat to our business. And then I went around them because I was a developer. But do you see how like these points lead, like the things that DevOps people want are the same things that we want, just like they're just saying them differently. Okay, so DevOps is the best thing to happen to application security since OWASP. I have a 5-year love affair with OWASP, totally obsessed. I lead a chapter, and I lead a project, and I'm just like such their biggest fan. And this is like the highest compliment that I could ever give anyone. This is a big deal. Oh, I feel like there's this big echo on stage. So I hear me twice as loud after I say each thing, and then all of you are so quiet. It's unusually intimidating. Is everyone still awake? Yes! Thank you. Is everyone excited for the after party tonight? Because I am. Who's gonna sing Barrett's Pioneers with me? Yes, 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 yes. Did someone know blockchain? Because you're awesome. Okay, I'm gonna get back on track. Sorry. I'm like, is everyone okay? Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah, I said that too. Okay, so let's talk about DevOps in the 3 ways. Okay, so there's many different definitions of DevOps, and I found that whenever anyone would explain what it was to me, I would get really confused because they would be like, it's people and processes and tools, and I'm like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to go do, right? Like, do I buy a product and then I have DevOps? Do I like do this? And I didn't find it very clear, so I read the Phoenix Project, then the DevOps Handbook, and then Accelerate. So if you want to know this inside and out, you should read those 3 books. They're all on Audible, so you don't have to sit still. I hate sitting still. And then I was like, okay, I got it, I know what to do. So the 3 ways of DevOps, according to their definition. The first way is you want to accelerate everything. So you want to release things fast. So you need to optimize the entire system for speed, not just your part. I've worked at a lot of places where people are like, well, that's not my job, which I feel is the death of every team activity, right? And the idea is if I work really hard to speed up my part, but the rest of it still just is slow, that I should have spent my energy instead helping someone else so the whole system would have been faster and more efficient. So that's the first way. Efficiency, speed of the entire system. And the other way is like this, pushing left, getting feedback right away, getting feedback regularly, getting feedback as soon as humanly possible, feedback that's helpful, right? So we're going this way instead. I'm going to show pictures, don't worry. And then the third way, which is the thing that sometimes people forget about, is continuous learning. And I don't mean going to CNs every month. Like, I mean, if I was like a billionaire, I would love to do that. But like, I mean, you know, taking Friday afternoon to play around with that new tool and try it out and make a proof of concept. It means, you know, having your boss buy you a couple credits on Audible so you can read a bunch of technical books while you commute to and from work or something. Like all the different things that you do, like coming here, are all part of continuous learning. And if you don't have time to ever take off of work to go do learning, that's a problem for you and for your workplace, right? So let's look at how we can add security to each of these things. So first of all, emphasizing the efficiency of the entire system, left to right. Or, see, told you there'd be amazing animations. I like to make fun of my slides a lot. Like whenever there's like an animation I have to do, I'm always just like, oh, Tanya. Because I see like other people's slides and sometimes they're so beautiful, and like I am missing so many cat things. After seeing Anna's talk this morning about like disclosing vulnerabilities and like the dangers involved from a legal standpoint, I'm like, I have an extreme lack of cats in my slides, so I'm sorry, there should have been a cat collage, and I understand what I did wrong. So what does this mean for Dev and Ops, right? So if we're gonna speed up the entire efficiency of the system from a security standpoint, what do Dev and Ops need to do? Well, we need their help. So we can't do anything without Dev and Ops, right? Like we can't just go in and change things. So if we're gonna add a tool to the pipeline, we need their help to tune it, to make sure there's no false positives, to make sure it's efficient and it's not taking 10 hours to run, right? we need help with them in the stage ends there. Okay. We need help with them, for instance, like reusing code that we know is good. I used to work somewhere, and we would make custom software for lots of places, and then what did everyone want? They wanted a login screen. So we made a template out of a login screen and got someone just smash away at it every so often. And then we would just all use that one template, right? So we would save time, and then we knew it was secure. Other things we could use is like, if we give them tools, it would be nice if they use them. And basically, the main thing here that we need from dev and ops is that they need to trust us and let us break the build if we find a high intensity bug, right? If we find a bug that's really scary, we need to break the build. And this is a thing that does not get you invited to parties. You don't want to break the build. I'm part of an open source project, and my friend Abel checked in code the night before I was supposed to present it for the first time, and I have to say I was pretty peeved when the security tool broke my build. But then I was happy because he had done some SQL injection. And then did I want to release that? No, and then I turned it into a lesson after my panic attack was over, and it was fine. Anyway, okay, so throughout this presentation, I'm going to summarize what I'm saying in a photo slide. There's going to be 4 photo slides so that you don't have to take notes the whole time if you don't want to. I find that if you put a bunch of words on the screen, no one listens to you, they just read it. I know because that's what I do when I see someone else present. So I'm going to just talk over pictures of amazing women of color doing tech, and then I'm going to have the words after so you can take a picture if you want to. So I'm going to assume everyone's taken the picture if they desire, and I'm going to go on to the next thing. So what does this mean for security? Because that's what we all do, right? We all do security, right? So, 1, it means we need to make sure dev and ops aren't waiting for us. When I was a developer, I felt like security was the bane of my existence, always getting in my way of trying to get to prod. And we need to make sure that we sprint if they are sprinting. So if they're doing short sprints, it means we need to break our security activities into smaller pieces so that we fit into them. It means that we can't break the build unless it's serious. So if you're like, oh, you're missing this security header on this one page, yes, you should fix it, and that should go into the backlog. But is that going to break the whole build? Probably not. Not for me. I mean, I guess it depends on which one it is and how high a security threshold, like a risk threshold you have. I mean, if it's top secret, well, why is it on the internet then? Okay, never mind. Okay, so, and the next thing is like that security, like we need to focus on all the value streams, not just on ours. And that's like a big change for security. Like we are adding value by enabling them to do their job securely. It's kind of like a mind switch. And that means making processes that work. I used to work somewhere, and it took 21 approval steps for me to do one scan. And like when they first showed me like the approval process, I was like, I quit. And they're like, no. I'm like, no. So if you show that to a developer, like the developer is just, no, they'll go around you, right? So it's like a mind adjustment. So that's our first thing we need to do. What else do we need to do? So breaking security activities into smaller pieces. So I'm going to get a little bit more specific on this. So let's say you want to do static application security testing or static code analysis or code review. Right? So things you could do is just like only look at this like new feature that they just put out. Or you could only search for one bug class. So like, let's say you run the static code analyzer, but you're only looking specifically for injection vulnerabilities, or you're only looking for things that look like cross-site scripting, so that you're actually done in a reasonable amount of time and you finish in your sprint. Right? So it's about kind of adjusting our expectations. And whenever possible, creating secure templates. By that I mean like giving them code that you know that is secure. For instance, like OWASP makes this thing called the Security Knowledge Framework, and they have a ton of samples in Java and .NET that are all just like, this is how you do this securely. Because every developer ever would code all day, and we're like, oh, I forget how to do that. And then they go to Stack Overflow, and then they pick the top thing, whatever's voted up the most, which is always the least secure way to do literally anything. It's always amazingly insecure. And then they're like, oh, copy, compile, oh great, and then they keep coding. No. If you give them like secure samples to work from, like will be so much better. And then the last thing that I have on here is that we need to we need to tune our tools. And we need to tune our tools so that there's no false positives, so we don't waste anyone's time. And we need to tune our tools so we don't waste our time, right? Like tune our tools so we get few or no false positives, but also so we're not getting too many false negatives, right? You don't want to make it so it's just kind of doing this late little scan on things and not actually finding anything. And this is something you have to communicate with other humans about. I know it's the worst, speaking to other humans. When I was a developer, I know I'm really social, but I would just be so happy to just sit there and code all day and not move until around 5. I'd be like, oh, I've had to pee for 6 hours, I should get up. So true. Okay, next slide. This is the photo slide again. So everyone who wants to take a picture had a chance to take a picture, and then at the bottom of the photo slides, I have a link to these slides on the internet in case you want to see them after the presentation. Okay, so another thing is a thing I call the parallel security pipeline. So developers have a pipeline and it goes and it does whatever tasks, and then there may be approvals that are manual and there may not be, and then it goes out into the world, onto your intranet or onto the internet, whichever one you choose. But what you could also do is have a parallel pipeline that goes nowhere. Why would you do that? Well, maybe I want to run a static app tool that I know is going to take 18 hours, but I still want to have friends in my office. So the thing I could do is say, okay, on Friday, please run it through here, and then I'll just come check the results on Monday. And then I haven't stopped anyone from doing anything. It's off running on its own little instance in the cloud somewhere. And then I come in and there's tons of false positives, but it doesn't matter because I have not held back anyone else's work, right? This is a great thing that the security team can do if they want to do super in-depth testing or if they want to have a pen tester come in and they want to poke around with a pipeline for some reason. Just having a separate area that is okay to do damaging, messy, slow testing. And another thing that I want to say on this slide is that I like giving developers security tools. And I remember the first place I worked where I wanted to do that, my boss was like, if we give them a bunch of hacker tools, they're just going to destroy our entire enterprise. And I said, they're software developers. They could already do that if they wanted to. Software developers are the ones that make hacker tools, right? Most software developers are hackers, just no one informed them yet. They can just go around every single thing that they want to unless you're really good, right? So they're not doing it because they're ethical. They're not doing it because you can trust them. That's why you hired them. They're not gonna suddenly be like, oh, they gave me OWASP Zap or Burp Suite and now all of a sudden I'm malicious. It's not how it works. If someone's malicious, they already are. We're already in big trouble. So if you can convince them to use it, if you have the money, or if you are open to using open source tools, if you give developers if you give developers security tools and a safe place to use them, they can do a big part of your job for you. I'm a big fan of convincing other people to do my work. Right? So another thing is you can write your own libraries. Who here has heard of or likes to watch Netflix? So I kind of have a crush on the Netflix AtlSec team, all of them collectively. They do so many cool things. So they created Chaos Monkey, which is an implementation of chaos computing, with the idea being just throw a bunch of stuff monkey wrenches into whatever it is to make sure that you can withstand bad stuff, right? So when Amazon went down, or AWS, their cloud went down, Netflix stayed up. Because it knew how to fail over to all these different other instances, and it managed to stay up when every other customer went down, which is out of this world amazing. So they came up with this thing called Repo Man that would go and just remove permissions. Now I'm going to tell you a bit more about that in the next one, which will be about feedback. But basically they write their own, they write a lot of their own libraries if they don't exist. And then they've been doing cool stuff like sharing them, which I think is really awesome because a lot of companies don't share their tools. Yeah. Okay, so this is the last one here. And see the last bullet point? Enable dev and ops in every way you can. So sometimes this means buying them a book. Sometimes this means, just going, like someone on my team, so I work on a team with like 92 developers, and they all speak at conferences, and I'm the security guy, just me. And then they'll be like, oh, I'm making this serverless app, and it's gonna connect to this IoT thing, and then it's gonna do this, and it's gonna do that, and then I'm gonna invite the public to come use it. Are there any risks to that? And then like, we need to have a phone call immediately. And then I talk to them about like the risks to us, but then also, oh my gosh, 5 minutes, I have to go. Next. Okay, next slide. Okay, so faster feedback. We're gonna go really fast now. Maybe there's just gonna be no Q&A. Okay, so faster feedback. So let's go back to my amazing animations, and we have this, pushing left. Pushing left is my favorite thing. But let's try to convince all of you that it should be your favorite thing. Who here likes money? This is the slide I show managers. And like the earlier you fix a bug, security bug, or any type of bug, the cheaper it is. And the thing you don't see on here is that fixing the bug in production, if you don't find it in production, but a bad, malicious actor finds it, the price is much, much, much higher. Sometimes the price is bankruptcy. So what does this mean for dev and ops? Well, it means providing feedback. So like the tool that Netflix made called Repo Man, it kept breaking everyone's stuff. And the developers told them, and then unlike so many security teams I've ever met before, they listened. And then they took the tool offline, they changed it, and renamed it Repo Kid. My friend Travis McPeak worked on it, and basically then it was a lot less aggressive, and they ended up like accomplishing their business task really well, but also still being friends and enablers instead of causing problems. So the security team needs to listen and take action, and we need feedback from all of you. Okay, so the next thing here is, for security people, is pushing left. Right, so we want feedback immediately. We all want feedback all the time as security folks, right? Right? Don't you want to know what's going on? So I'm going to give you some examples of fast feedback. So my friend Clint, he's a super cool dude, and he does talks, and he's super funny and smart, so that's a good deal. So if we look at, just ignore the whole slide and just look at the little blue arrow. He wrapped this wrapper around this old function he didn't want people using anymore because it's insecure, and he named it non-cryptographically secure MD5. So you would type it, and then it would rename itself. Oh, 15 minutes. Oh, thanks. So it would instantaneously rename it, and then usage went down 98% the first month. Right? Developers want to make secure apps. They do. They want their app to be the best app that anyone's seen because they have pride in their work, right? They build something out of nothing all day. That's literally their job description, right? So of course they want to make it secure. So they got this immediate feedback, and then all of a sudden everything was so much more secure. So this is a creative idea. Oops, wait, no, too fast. Oh, and then I actually already told you the story about Repo Kid. So instead I'm going to do the photo slide. So this is going to be, I think, the last photo slide. But I think the importance here is that we want to ensure that there are security activities in each area that developers need assistance, and ops folks, right? Giving them tools, giving them support, giving them time, giving them licenses. All of these things are things you can do to enable both teams to do their jobs securely. So what else does this mean for security? Oh, there's going to be more photo slides, I forgot. Sorry, there's 7. So glad they gave me more time. Okay, so who here has heard of positive tests? So unit tests are like little tiny pieces of code that check each part of your app to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do. So a cool idea is if your developers have made a lot of unit tests. I know that no one has 100% coverage. I know that that's a dream. That's just in every person's heart. But even if they have 30% coverage, you can take all those tests and turn them into something called a negative unit test. So what you do is you take the test and you put malicious payloads in it. And then you make sure that your app fails appropriately. You never, ever, ever, ever want your app to fail into an unknown state. That's when hacking happens. So if it catches all the errors and fails gracefully, you're all set. And when you make a bunch of unit tests and then turn them into negative unit tests, what this means is you have regressive security testing every time you check in your code. This is huge if you can get this going. It takes time, but imagine having like a regressive pen test every time you check in your code. So if you have a pen tester come, like Laurent, and then he, let's say he finds 15 things wrong. First of all, you look through all your other apps to see if they're vulnerable to the same things, because the same coders wrote the other app, right? And then you add all of this stuff to the unit test so you make sure it never gets put back into the code. Such good value for your money. Okay, so the next thing here is we want to invite dev and ops people to participate in security activities. So if there's an incident, if you can, right? I know not everyone can based on the sensitivity of what's happening, but if you can, invite them with you. That's how I got hooked on incident management. It was all downhill from there. The first time that I read SQL injection, it was like obfuscated on a web server, and I looked at it and like, oh, that's a select statement. Oh, that's a union statement. Oh, what's that? And they're all looking at me like I'm insane, and then I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh. And then I was hooked, and then I was super interested. It's a good way to recruit, and it's a good way to make sure that all your developers understand just how important security is and how they affect it, good or bad. So for incidents, for threat modeling, if there's a security sprint, that's a sprint where you just do security activities. And that does not mean that then you're a developer and you just do stuff that's in the backlog, and then you ignore the security team. That's not what it means. Okay, and so the last thing that this means for security is I'm a big fan of metrics. I like to measure everything. And I used to do some pen testing, or more actually security assessments. And I would go in and I would say like, oh, let's see all your scam results. Okay, so what are the top 3 things that you've done wrong? Because I'm gonna give a lunch learn, like in a deep dive onto these things, or write up, what are security headers and why they're your friend, or this is cross-site scripting. You guys apparently know each other really well. And then I could kind of like take off this big chunk of problems right from the top, right? So if you are a security team, share this information with your developers. Go and look over the past year, look at all the incidents. The way I was allowed to launch my first AtlSec program is I took all these incidents that happened over the past year, and then I broke them up into 5 different categories. And one of them was like, okay, we can't handle what the public does or how they use our site. Like, if people are going to try to attack us, we can't stop them from trying. We can make it, like he was saying, really hard, right? And so when I showed them, like, this is how much it cost us to have all of these vulnerable apps out there, and, if you give me a few months, and then they let me start my first AtlSec program. Oh yes, and we already talked about that one. So this is number 5. There's two more photo slides coming. So this is the third of the 3 ways. Remember the first one? Efficiency and speed of the entire system. The second way of DevOps is that we want fast feedback. And the third way is continuous learning, right? And this means culture change. So what does this mean for Dev and Ops? It means learning about security. Wait, no, go back. It means if we offer training, they should say yes. It means, if there's a chance where, like, if one of them learns a security problem, like let's say there's a pen test on one of your 10 apps, they should share those lessons with everyone else, right? Like, you can encourage this by giving out training or holding lunch and learns or providing things, but we need them to be on board. That's the number 1 thing, that they need to care. So what does this mean for us? It means lots. It means, in my opinion, the most important thing it means is making yourself available. Like, if a developer has a question, it's so important to answer them. You know what happened yesterday? I was asking someone on a security team, like at a company that I knew, to ask someone, or to give advice to someone about a thing that like specifically involved them and their country. So I was like, I don't know the specific things. You know what he did? He responded, you should read this book. Thanks for nothing. So then I wrote back like as rudely as I could. I was like, if you don't have time or are unwilling to help us, could you please provide us with someone that does have time and is willing? And then he got really defensive. But like, that's me being rude. I felt that was very rude. Anyway, That's not helpful, right? Instead, it's like, can we book a meeting to talk about this? Or I'm not the expert on that, but this person is, can I introduce you? The most important thing is being available. But the next thing on here is that give every single person in your IT department job-specific training. Tell them what you need from them. If they are a software developer, give them secure coding guidelines. I have some on my blog if you need some, right? If there's a person doing security requirements or project requirements, give them guidelines on like what you expect from security requirements on each project, right? If someone works in help desk, they have superpowers. If someone's a sysadmin, that's the person that every pen tester wants to get to know personally, right? If you give each person individualized security training that is specific to their job, life will just be so much better for you. Yeah, and so this is the second last photo slide. I swear we're almost done and then there'll be beer. So one more thing. So if there is an incident, okay, so who here has lived through a security incident? Or 2 or 100? Yeah, okay. The rest of you have, you just don't know, and you have a really mature security team, because they weren't running around screaming. You need to have a blameless post-mortem after. So it's not Alice's fault or Bob's fault. It's not, this person screwed up. It's what safeguard wasn't there, or what policy wasn't there to make sure that this didn't happen. Why don't we have a safeguard that blocks against that? And then you look at it, and then you plan to fix it. And when you don't shame people all the time, it means that they actually trust you, and then they'll tell you things, and then you will find out about things before they become security incidents. And you can actually build a lot of trust. Okay, and lastly on this section is we want to basically share as much out of our tools as we can. Right, like create a lunch and learn or a newsletter or anything you can to share information with developers and ops people about what you need from them. Okay, and now on to the fun part, which is security becoming a part of DevOps. And this means culture change. This means celebrating wins, right? It's okay if you bring donuts to work or fruit or whatever the thing is that your office likes if someone does a good job. We could try to actually spend time with the dev and ops people if that's possible. Like if you're going to have, a Christmas party, what if you all had your Christmas parties together so you actually know each other? Again, please don't blame people in postmortems. I've learned the hard way that that does not go well. And try to encourage people to become security champions. So if you see a person that is super excited about security, encourage that person as best you can. If you're allowed to bring them on an incident, bring them with you. If you can have like a special time to teach them, if you can buy them a book, anything that you can do, like even just sharing a blog post that you read that you thought that they might think is interesting. It's so important because this person will become your ally that is in the meetings that you are never going to be invited to. Okay, so one last thing, and then beer and songs. So I'm going to get a little bit awkward with you because this is what I do. So security's job is to enable dev and ops to do their jobs securely. This means enabling them. It means teaching them. It means automating as many security things as we can so we concentrate on the cool stuff. And it means giving feedback all the way, right? And I have read in many places, and it's been confirmed by various studies, that if people say something out loud and promise it, that they're 80% more likely to do it. And with that, I would like everyone to please raise your right hand. I know they weigh a lot, but I gave you stickers, and there's candy, and there's so many beers coming towards you, so I see you over there with your hand out up. Please, please, please. Okay, no, I'm not kidding, but so if you all say it, it's not embarrassing. Okay, so I promise to enable dev and ops to do their jobs securely as best I can. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.